It's about 30 seconds before we are streaming live on YouTube. Perfect. We are now live on YouTube. 30 seconds before we are streaming live on YouTube. Now we are getting feedback that I'm going to have to address. This is why we test these things. Yes. Appears to have stopped, correct? Perfect. We are now live on YouTube. 30 seconds before we are streaming live on YouTube. Now we are getting feedback that I'm going to have to address. This is why we test these things. That's right. That's right. Appears to have stopped, correct? Perfect. We are now live on YouTube. 30 seconds before we are streaming live. We've got to mute this or just delete it and we'll go from there. Okay. So with that said, I appreciate everybody's patience at this point. I'd like to welcome you to our first ever Voices from the Field. This is season 1, session 1, and we look forward to providing this service on a weekly basis throughout this semester and next, and continuing it beyond that. So I am Brian Avery, by the way. I'm the Director of Engaged Learning and Outreach, and I want to start off by thanking Gabby, who is a graduate assistant in the UF Sport Management Department, for coordinating this particular webinar. I also want to introduce our moderator today, Shelly Lyle. She is a UF SPM career coach. I would imagine many of you have had interactions with her at this point. Shelly will be introducing our guest today, and Gabby will be monitoring our chat function. Please hold your questions to the end, and Gabby will, ask those questions, once we've had our discussion with respect to Jessica at this point. So I do believe that Gabby has put in the chat box Jessica's contact information, specifically her LinkedIn information and her email address, so that you can contact or reach out to her after the fact. With that said, once again, I welcome you. At this time, I introduce you to Shelly. Shelly?
Hi, thank you, Brian. We just want to say thank you all for being here. We're excited, especially to Jessica. Thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to hearing your insights in the field. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and get started and give a little bit of background for Jessica. She graduated from University of Florida in 2017 with a bachelor's in event management. She also has pursued her MBA from FAU, and her career experiences include University of Nebraska, College World Series, and currently working for Tampa Bay Rays as a senior event coordinator. She's going on her 3rd year. We're very excited. The Tampa Bay Rays are doing amazing right now, so big shout out to them. And so is there anything I left out, Jessica, you'd like to share with the group that would help them give some more insight into you and maybe your experiences?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I will say I actually worked for the University of Nebraska, Omaha. It's a smaller campus in Omaha, but that's where I ended up in the College World Series, so that was cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. And how did you get your start in sports? What was the path that led you to where you are today?
So I always wanted to do events, even when I was like in high school, I did the whole planning prom and homecoming thing. So that was kind of where I started. And then I thought maybe I would do, like charity events for an NFL team because I love football. But it wasn't until when I was at Florida, I started working for Rec Sports. And I was a softball official and then made my way to supervisor, worked volleyball a little bit. And that was when I kind of realized like, oh, you know what? I really enjoy like working with sports every single day, like not just events. And so started thinking of some different paths that I could take to where I could do kind of best of both worlds. And that's kind of how I ended up in stadium operations. I was still kind of flirting with events or sports, and then found my way to the Rays, which is really, really a kind of a lucky opportunity for me. I definitely got here through networking, of all things. So definitely pro networking. But yeah, so with the Rays, I get to do events and I get to do baseball. So I love that.
That's awesome. Yes, we love to hear about networking. We tell the students all the time how important that is, and how in the sports industry is specifically, it is really about networking, and the jobs are often shared with friends and people that are, known by others in the industry for sure. So was it always baseball, or were there other sports you were looking into? How did you have a lot of experience in baseball specifically. So was that like your passion?
I wouldn't say that was my passion from the get-go. I definitely, working the College World Series is kind of what I guess, pushed me into baseball, because my resume from doing that, and then when I was at UNO, I did a lot of baseball and softball with their program, it was a pretty small school, but I got to do a lot with it being a small school. And so, just kind of life kind of happens sometimes. And so my experience in baseball from those two backgrounds definitely kind of made me think a little bit more like, okay, I really enjoy this. Like maybe I could do this for either a college team. And then I made it to the Rays through the VP of marketing. And so it was definitely, they liked me because I had a background in baseball, but I wouldn't say that was, I didn't come out of college like I'm going to work in baseball. It was definitely, I was looking into like the main three, so to speak, football, basketball, or baseball. And then, I played softball in high school. So obviously like I, definitely love the sport. And so, yeah, it kind of just worked out that way, but I'm happy about it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And tell us a little bit more too about kind of how you got there. You mentioned networking and baseball, having that history, but how did you get the job you have today? Give us a little insight on that.
So the networking it's kind of a funny story. A friend of a friend, was the VP of marketing. He still is, works, right behind my desk now, which is super cool. And my dad actually gave him and his family a boat ride one day. And I happened to be on the boat with my dad, and we got to chatting, and I had just come back from the College World Series. And once I realized who he was, I was like, ooh, okay, I gotta find a way to make this, work to my benefit. And he's very, outgoing guy, and, offered to chat with me after the fact. And so he gave me his number, followed up with him, excuse me, a few days later, once his family got back from vacation, of course. And he gave me the opportunity to come and shadow who will then turn out to be my boss. She's actually left now, but she was the event manager at the time. And so I came and shadowed her for a Red Sox game, which looking back now is probably one of the busiest days ever of her life, because Red Sox they're fun games. But and so, yeah, so I got to shadow her, and then she offered me the opportunity to kind of, stay in touch. And she mentioned that they were hiring interns relatively soon. And so I definitely applied for that, reached back out, kind of stayed in contact with her. And then they hired me on as an intern a few months later. And then I kind of got lucky again in that the coordinator job opened up because the coordinator who was there before me was promoted. And so I snuck my way in there, and, was an intern for only a few months before I got that opportunity. So I was really thankful for that. And then last year was promoted to senior coordinator, just because I started taking on, a few more responsibilities here and there. But yeah, definitely, networking it's really beneficial. But I feel like if you don't kind of take that next step to like stay in touch with them, that's really where it comes to fruition. And that's kind of what I did.
That's awesome. Well, your journey has been very successful. It's encouraging to hear just kind of how each step for you opened up at the time that it did. So speaking of your job right now, what do you do big picture? And then tell us a little bit what you do day to day.
So big picture, I kind of have about 3 parts to my job is what I like to think about it. There is baseball is obviously one, but then I also do outside events. So third-party promoters that come in and rent the stadium, I coordinate a lot of those. And then internal events, which a lot of internal events are in baseball is kind of related. So for example, we do a lot of clinics and theme nights and just various things kind of in conjunction with baseball, where a group of kids, might come in the morning for a career fair, speak to a few different employees. Maybe we have a player come in early and do a signing. I will coordinate all of that with some different internal departments. And then I'm always just about on site for baseball as well, just helping out our stadium operations team, because my position is within stadium operations. I don't know if I mentioned that. On a game day, making sure that our stadium security gets set up in place, that all of our staff is doing what they're supposed to do, and then just kind of maintenance of the crowd. We didn't get to do a whole lot of that this season, unfortunately, but making sure that, everybody that comes in is safe, they're happy. If there are any crowd complaints, that we kind of, we'll deal with those, or we'll liaise with our guest services staff. So it's kind of, so day to day is a little bit more, just kind of whatever pops up if it's an event day. So like with non-baseball events is what we call our big third-party events. So that can be anything from a small training in one of our like secondary rooms, or sometimes every year we have a football game on the field as well, and we convert the entire field, and then the stadium has a few thousand people that come to that. It's like a senior bowl. But yeah, we kind of do everything all across the board in that sense, and I'm involved in selling the building in addition to helping make sure that those events are coordinated properly. I'm either the lead on an event, or I'll assist, an event manager or our director with another event in that sense. And so day to day, in addition to event days, is sometimes it's coordinating these events that are coming up. It's working with our internal departments to make sure that everything is set for upcoming baseball games. So even if that's table activations or whatever they need in the stadium for their smaller events. So like, for example, we have Dog Day every year, which one of my favorite days, of course, because dogs. So I'll work with our marketing liaison that's in charge of that event to make sure that all of her stadium needs are taken care of. So that's kind of day to day, but it's also a little bit tough to really say, what a day to day is, because it's different all the time. And that's one of the things that I love about my job, is that we don't get bored very easily. But
yeah, and what would you say your schedule is like? Clearly it fluctuates in season, out of season, but
I almost feel like it's a little bit more regular during the baseball season, because we have, it's homestand to homestand is what we call them. So we'll be home for 3 series, which is, it varies in days, but it could be a 10-day home series, and then they're gone for another 2 weeks or something like that. And so those are a little bit more regulated, because I know, like, okay, every game is going to be 6:40. I'll be in at this time. I'll leave roughly around this time. And then, excuse me again, our off season is a little bit more fluctuates, I guess, because every event is different. And so some events take a little bit more, time and effort from our team, and we're in the stadium working the event a little bit longer than some other ones. And so it's tough to kind of say what my schedule is, because it really just depends on what's going on in the stadium. But if we don't have baseball, we don't have an event, I'm 9 to 5. So.
Okay. I love the realism though. I know anyone working in sports, I try and remind them that the hours fluctuate, the schedules can be crazy, travel, not travel. So I just love to hear, everyone's insight into what their schedule looks like every day, and what the best that they can. We know that it changes all the time. And so what's the difference? We do have students that are interested in doing like a team operations versus a senior event coordinator. And can you speak to that? Because you do deal with the operations of the stadium operations, but I know sometimes that can be confusing when students are trying to navigate the difference between the two.
Yes. So player operations, or what we refer to as baseball operations, is a little bit more of like actual communication with what the players do on the field. So that's actually a really big like statistics type of role. So they're geniuses over there in what they do. And our baseball operations department is, not to brag, one of the best in the MLB, I think. And so it's a little bit more of like analysis of the players and what they do, and giving suggestions to our coaches and to our team to see like what the best scenario is on the field. And I might not be explaining that super great, but that's kind of the generalness behind it. And then there's also a communications department, which they are kind of the liaison between a player and the media. Or anybody that like asks for a player appearance. They kind of work as that middleman to help the players out get where they're kind of going.
Okay, cool. No, that's super helpful. And I know like when you look on the websites, every team kind of lists, depending on the sport, various things. And sometimes they just mean different things, so I always like to get a little clarity, because it can be, I think every team does things differently and labels different positions. So thank you for that. Okay, so what's the most rewarding experience so far in your career?
Gosh, I honestly want to say like right now, it's so cool like where the team is going, and how great we're playing and where we're at. But I guess just in general, there have been a few events that have been outside of baseball that have been really rewarding for me, just because the way that they came, like the way that they were produced, I guess, so to speak, was just way beyond my wildest dreams. And one of those was we had a 32-day Christmas show called Enchant. I don't know if anyone's ever heard about, but that was one of those events that took so much time and effort from me physically, mentally, and I was here all the time. And it's, those are really rewarding moments when you put just so much effort into something and then you see it in front of you and you're like, wow, I did that. And that was definitely, a moment that I had there. But every year, opening day with baseball, it's that same type of feeling. This year's a little bit different since we didn't have as many people in the building. But we work really, really hard, at least a month up till opening day, and then seeing the stadium packed, and all of the, fun little like side events that we do along with opening day. It's really rewarding to like see your hard work out there on the field. And then when the team does well in addition to that, it's really awesome.
That's great. And what do you enjoy most about your job? And what have you found the most interesting and maybe the most challenging?
So I love that it's different every day. And so, the most interesting, I would probably say just like the different departments that I get to work with and all the different sides of baseball that I get to see are really cool. Because, sometimes if you're in a baseball operations department, you might not get to interact with like your community engagement department as much. But with my job and with all the different events that I do, I get to see and know and talk to everyone in the organization. And I absolutely love that. Even baseball operations, because, they do some small events from time to time. And so that's definitely very rewarding. It's just being able to like walk down the hallway at work and, people see you and say hi to you and like pull you over because they have a million questions about whatever event they have going up. But it's a very people-oriented type of position. So if you don't like people, it might not work out for you, but I like being, around people and all that good stuff. So I definitely love that. And then I think you asked challenges. One thing that I don't is sometimes I have to sit at my desk all day and do paperwork. And so it is, it's not all glamorous events and baseball games. There is a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes. And some of that is, boring paperwork. But for the most part, if I'm boots on the ground, I'm pretty happy.
That's great. Okay. And given the circumstances we're in today, how has your role changed or been impacted by the pandemic? I know you referenced not having as many fans, but what other ways are you having to kind of manage your role differently?
So I've kind of jumped in here in the last few months as just kind of a, what do you need me to do type of person, I guess you could say, because since I'm still planning for the future as far as events and, the future of next year with baseball goes, but there's only so much that you can do planning out, especially when we're, not really sure what the pandemic's going to do and where we're going to be in the next few months. So I've been kind of doing a lot of like hands-on, like little things here and there. And obviously, cleaning and safety has been a huge aspect of what we've been doing. Especially with stadium operations, like cleaning and safety and security is all under stadium operations to begin with. And so even though I'm not planning events, I'm helping out with that, making sure that, we get sanitizing stations up around the building. We did have family and friends that were able to attend the 2 wildcard games that we hosted. And so we were physically distancing almost most of the stadium where all of them were sitting. And so it's, some like nitty gritty type of stuff is a little bit more of what I've been doing over the last few months. But it's been crazy, but it's, it's one of those things that we'll look back on in years and be like, that was kind of cool to be a part of in a weird way.
Yeah, I'm sure you're coming. I mean, for someone who likes to be boots on the ground, I'm sure you've had a lot of opportunities to kind of have to sort through, troubleshoot things and just manage every day differently as it comes. And with the, the conversations around race right now, how did your organization answer the call to confront racial inequality our country is currently faced with?
So the Rays have a diversity and inclusion team, and I'm really proud of our organization and everything that they do. And so that team has been in contact with all of our employees, in addition to, I think we've been pretty busy on social media as far as our stance on it. And I think that's, it's really great how we not only have, like, it's not just one person that's like, okay, we need to, we need to say this and we need to do this. Like it's an entire team, and it's a team of people that opted to be a part of it. And that was something that we had, a few years ago. So it's something that we've been working towards, that we've had for a while. And I'm just, really proud of them, that we've been able to tackle all of this as an organization, as a group. And then I know that, the Rays have committed to financially supporting a few organizations in, I think, the Tampa Bay area that are trying to, to fight this. And so I'm, like I said, really, really proud of our organization and all the things we do.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. And this is my last question. So if anyone has questions, they can throw them in the chat box right now. But what advice, Jessica, would you give for those out there trying to do what you do, and how to kind of stand out as an applicant as they're applying for opportunities?
So I would say, get as much experience as you can while you're still in college, because when you start, applying for those internships and those entry-level positions right outside, like that is typically part of my job is helping hire interns. And so applicants that I've looked at that have, a few different experiences while they're in college, whether it be like what I did with rec sports or even volunteering for events. Like I love seeing that kind of stuff on a resume. I understand, some people are really busy with, school and life and all of that. But get as much experience as you can while you're still in the cozy comfort of, the University of Florida. And then one thing that I always like to see too is whenever applicants really know our organization, sometimes we'll be interviewing candidates for interns and they don't even know like what events we host. And so like really doing your research and kind of getting out there and seeing what the organization's all about. Our mission statement is posted on our website, as I'm sure a lot of other organizations got as well, and kind of using that to their advantage. And then of course, networking. We love networking.
That's great. And as far as interns and given the COVID situation, what are you guys doing? Are you guys going to be having interns in the spring, or how are you guys managing that?
We haven't really talked about it yet, so I'm not really sure. I hope we do, but I like having interns around.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's curious. I think everyone seems to be indifferent. Every organization's handling it different. So it's good to know, it will be in conversations in the upcoming future, but I'm sure you guys are just trying to manage right now.
Yeah, with the team, still playing well and still, definitely fighting in the playoffs. We're kind of still focused on that. Even though they're not here in the stadium, there's still a fair amount that, we have excitement wise that goes on. And so hopefully maybe after we go through the end of October, we might start thinking about next year. But yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, well, those are all the questions I have. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really helpful. And I think, having worked with some of the students, you've really answered questions that will guide them on how to approach the upcoming year and just, jobs like yours. So thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to hand it over to Gabby, who's going to ask any questions. And if anyone has questions while Jessica's answering, please feel free to throw those back in the chat box as well.
Yeah, thanks, Shelly. Right now, it doesn't look like we have too many questions from the students. So for now, okay, we do have one actually. It says, since the Rowdies and the Rays are owned by the same group, do you guys work with the Rowdies at LA Lang Stadium? Do you work with them? That's what he wants to know.
That's a really good point. That's one thing that I've been doing a little bit more of the last few months is helping out down at the Rowdies too. But yes, we are kind of one but separate entities. So we, are one big happy family as it comes to employees. But they have their own stadium and they kind of operate on their own, and then we kind of do the same thing. But there is a fair amount of, assistance that goes overlap. Like our marketing department will help out their marketing department. Our operations department will go out and help out their operations department. And so we like having them as kind of like our sisters/brothers in sports.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. And thanks, Michael, for that question. And as of now, that's the only questions. We'll wait a few more seconds and then might wrap it up here.
Okay.
And Jessica, I have a quick one, a follow-up. Is there anything that you wish you would have known when you were in university, more of your undergrad time, that you wish you would have known that you could move forward, and whether that's like reaching out to more people, or if that's any advice you'd give your younger self, maybe your undergrad self?
I would say like don't be afraid to reach out to people, because I was definitely a little bit more shy in that aspect. Like if I didn't have the networking opportunity basically dropped on my lap, like I don't know if I would have gone out there and really like worked to find it. I'm a little bit better about that now too when it comes to, you know, like events and different things that I have to meet clients for. But that's definitely a skill that I think you should learn in college, and start applying it like as you start to get closer and closer to that senior year. And that'll definitely help out with that, you know, senior internship that I know we all had to do.
Right, and that actually segues really nicely. So Josh had a question. Do you have the opportunity to continue to network while you're with a job with another organization?
Absolutely. You know, like we here in like the Tampa Bay sports area, you know, we have the Lightning, we have the Bucks, and then obviously we have the Rowdies as well. And so there's a fair amount of opportunity where that might overlap. If so, for example, like a few Bucks players came over and did they did like a first pitch ceremony, I think last season. And so we definitely, you know, we help each other out. Like we're all, like I said, we're all sisters and brothers in sports. And the Rays actually, they are a part of WISE, which is it's Women in Sports and Events. And so through that, there's a lot of really cool networking opportunities with other Tampa Bay area individuals, as well as I think Florida as a whole. So there's always, you know, networking is always an option.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. All right. I think those are all the questions. Jessica, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. Brian, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, as everyone has stated, it is really great to hear from you. I appreciate all the insight that you've got with respect to it. If there's one thing or piece of advice you could offer the students, what would that be with respect to their transition to their careers?
With their transition to their careers, interesting. I would say be ready for anything. You know, I kind of came into the Rays like not really sure what I was going to do and like a little nervous and timid. So being prepared that your first day might be getting coffee, or it might be go set up this event that you've never heard of before. But just coming in day one, like excited for the opportunity and ready to jump in and go.
Perfect. I do agree with that. Flexibility is so important in this day and age. So that's a great point. This was excellent. Like everyone has said, I appreciate the great feedback, the comments, the chats. This has been really helpful. I'm looking forward to making sure that the students get to see this in perpetuity. So this will be edited and then put up on YouTube so you can share and others can share and refer back to it. But I think this has been a very successful first season, session 1, and I appreciate you being a part of that, Jessica. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I appreciate being the first. I like being the trailblazer.
Absolutely. So, and there are little bugs that we on our end have figured out that we'll be addressing moving forward, obviously, YouTube and feedback and things like that. But nonetheless, I don't think it was too terrible in that regard. I think things went fairly smoothly at this point. So, but thank you for being a part of that process, and go Rays, and obviously go Gators.
Yes, go Rays, go Gators.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Appreciate your feedback and being on the call. Bye-bye.
Thanks.